In the Sol system of the Milky Way galaxy lies a small blue planet named Earth. This planet is inhabited by 7.5 billion creatures called humans. Humans are a bipedal species of extreme tool users with tribalistic tendencies. In this series, we will be exploring man and his multiple facets and industries, including the various places he calls home. But first, we must know more about the creature that dominates a world so hostile to him. Humans are a sexually dimorphic species. This means the males are visually distinct from the females. Unlike many species on the planet, the males tend to be larger and have more muscle mass. Females tend to be smaller and prefer a sleeker frame. They also tend to keep the appearance of youth longer. This is a trait known as neoteny and serves a purpose in mate selection. In the human animal, preference is often shown towards the female of the species, with their safety and survival being considered first. This can be seen in their tendency to evacuate women and children first when evacuations are limited. This is due to how humans breed. Human offspring have a gestation period of nearly one orbital cycle of their planet around the Sun. Even after they're born, they require nearly 16 additional orbital cycles before they can be considered adult. In some regions of the planet, it can be even more. During the pregnancy, human females are often inconvenienced, if not entirely hindered by the offspring growing inside them, and will be heavily dependent on others. Since females usually only give birth to one child at a time, this means that each child receives a great amount of care and requires a great amount of resources to bring to term and then to adulthood. In many parts of the earth, the job for providing these resources falls to the male. In times of lower human saturation, he will also be considered the primary defense of the mother and children. This creates a situation where the males who can produce the greatest resource will often have a better selection of female partners. Human mating can be complicated, but in most regions of the human world this is how mating selection is done. Humans will often mate for life, though this is not always true in every case. Given the complexity of human mating and behavior, it's a wonder they can work together at all, but this is one of the greatest keys to human success. Humans are naturally tribalistic, and will congregate more willingly with other humans who share similar traits. These traits are not always physical, as many humans can share little more than language, tradition, and proximity, and still live relatively well together. Human success is often linked to how large of a tribe they can work with, and how well these tribes can work with each other. Humans have built large hierarchies to keep large groups of humans and tribes working together. These hierarchies are known as governments. Governments are ruling bodies composed of humans. They vary in methods and rules, but generally serve the same purpose. It is the job of a government to defend and enforce the rules agreed upon by the citizens who put the government into power. Position in a government can be a natural place for humans to find ways to gather resources and status. This can also lead to problems in government. Humans are naturally greedy creatures, and will take what they think they can get away with, or what they think won't be missed. Some humans will not follow the rules of a government, but seek office within it to hide their own misbehaviors. Often governments can become bloated with such humans, and fail in their stated goals of enforcement and defense. Eventually, however, such governments are replaced or overthrown by humans not inside it, looking out for their own best interests. In this way, human greed keeps human greed in check, at least in the long run. Governments are not the only source of power in the human world. Humans have various religions that form their own institutions and hierarchies, which are just as susceptible to corruption as their governments. Religions are often used to enforce traditions and teachings on large groups of humans. Often this would have a positive effect, allowing large groups of humans to coexist with each other easier. For many centuries, certain religious institutions were the only place humans could go for literacy. In more modern times, this has been the job of governments and private institutions. Currently, religions don't play as large a role in the daily lives of humans as they did. But as with all things in human society, it tends to run in cycles, and religiosity may find its way back into human life. Much like the humans they represent, governments often find themselves in conflict with each other. Usually this is due to disputes over borders, trading, and/or values. Each government will do what it can to achieve what they see as best for their people. Often the conflicts between nations can get heated. This can lead to insults, trade embargoes, tariffs on imported goods, and sometimes skirmishes between the citizens. If a situation becomes too tense, one government may declare war on another. War is a declaration of open and organized hostility. This usually leads to armed groups of humans called armies moving in to occupy territories held by opposing governments. The threat of war is usually enough to make each government keep a standing army to dissuade rivals from attempting an invasion. Wars can be triggered by one government wanting what another one has, one government hurting another's trade, or even ideological and religious differences. Over time, human governments have become larger and rule over larger areas of land. Strangely, as governments have increased in size, the number of wars they participate in has shrunk. But as the number shrinks, they tend to become more violent and use more powerful weapons. Currently, their weapons have reached a level of power sufficient to scar the planet they live on semi-permanently. Given humans are reasonably intelligent and fear destruction due to retaliation, these weapons are rarely used, and war between governments with these weapons is actively avoided. This may only be a matter of available space as humans start to outgrow their home world. Already they look to their neighboring planets, looking for ways to colonize them. They are also looking at the resources of their system and planning not only how to get to them, but how to exploit them. They have already set foot on their moon. Will it be much longer before they conquer the rest of their system? In this series, we will be looking at the human creature, his homes, lands, cultures, and systems, so that we may truly discover the human lore.